social media, as you'll see in a second, is starting to become a major force for clients to figure out who they want to invite to for RFPs and who they should, as you'll find out in a second, not invite for RFPs or to become part of the selected consultants. So, as I just said, we wanted to find everybody here because the decision to hire a consultant very rarely rests with one person. Even those of us who have strong relationships with CEOs, Bain or some of the strategy, you still are open to other influences. Your CEO at this point is probably not a sole decision maker. Purchasing gets involved and so forth. So as I said, you have multiple input givers when it comes to deciding on consultants. And it's, of course, as many of you know, become, in some cases, an incredibly complicated process. So we wanted to find out, first of all, what are the ways that when you're looking for a consulting firm, trying to determine which ones you're going to take. And indeed, we found that the traditional older forms of media are still the primary ways. So they talk to colleagues in your firm. If you're a big firm, maybe one of the consulting firms have been used. You contact your friends outside the firm, as I said. You look at presentations and public conferences. You look at the online publications. You use the online search engines and so forth. But then you get down to these new areas, going to websites that provide opinions of consulting firms, listening to the consulting firm webinars or things that might be on YouTube, reading the blogs, the firm's blogs, posting questions in public social media, networking sites like LinkedIn and Facebook, and microblogging sites like Twitter. So even though these are still lower ranked in terms of how our clients are finding out about us, they still are on the radar screen, and they're starting, and we're going to follow this over the years, and we suspect that these new forms of social media are going to start rising in importance. Again, not unexpectedly from everything we know, that LinkedIn and private social networks are really the predominant when it comes to the social media part of it. Twitter, Vault, and even Facebook, although we suspect that if we were to do this study right now, Facebook would be a much bigger part because of how the growth and importance and how fast it's growing. But again, our clients are going to the more professional B2B social media. This is probably the single most important chart you're going to look at today. Despite everything we may be doing on social media, it is not in our control. The question was, have you ever decided not to use a consulting firm after hearing it mentioned negatively by someone or several people in your online social networks? And the answer is 40% of the respondents said yes. Now, one of the things we're going to do in this year's study is we're going to try to figure out what exactly does that mean, because that can mean many things. And last night we had a long debate of what could that mean. All we know is that there are things being posted out there that you may or may not be aware of, that if a client gets a hold of it and has to determine whether or not to invite a consulting company to bid or even to use a consulting company or so forth, can use that as an excuse to go to a senior manager and say, look, you're trying to get down from 10 consultants to 5. Well, I heard they've got some employees that are very unhappy. There was 2 clients who said they didn't deliver the results. We're not going to take them. That's all it takes. Now, what we don't know is at what point in the cycle can this happen, what sort of relationships most get deep sixed by this. But the fact that our customers are saying 40% of the respondents said at some point they did not invite a consultant to bid or to get involved because of a negative comment. This is a warning bell, and I know certainly in the US, in many of our forums, whether they're marketing people,